Hello, my name is Brianna, and I am so excited that you're joining me today. As you can see, the title of this presentation is called Your Daughter Can Heal Her Life. And you are in the right place if you have a daughter who is a teen girl or young woman. Your daughter is struggling in her life. You're tired of not getting the results from therapists and or medication. And you're concerned about your daughter. So in the next 30 minutes, this is what you will learn. What's really holding your daughter back and the secret to turn her life around. Here is something else you will learn. The method that the girls and young women that I work with are using to take full control over their lives. And you will also learn what none of the parenting books and doctors out there are telling moms about the key to their daughters relieving stress, anxiety, and depression. You will also learn the shifts that my clients are making to have a more positive outlook, feel happier, and become more confident. But let me tell you a little bit about who am I? Well, my name is Brianna, and I am an empowerment coach for teen girls and young women. I also have a master's degree in spiritual psychology, where I was trained to work with people to help them uproot any deep traumas, limiting beliefs, or issues from the wounds from their past and really heal them so they can stop their suffering. I live in sunny Santa Monica, California, and I do have an adorable puppy named Annabelle, and she is sleeping right down here, so hopefully she will be quiet for this presentation. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story so this all makes sense. Back in 2011, this is me. I looked happy, right? And sure, on the outside, everything looked really, really good. I had a good job. I was making a lot of money. I lived in a gorgeous place in Marina del Rey, like overlooking the water. And on the outside, everything looked perfect. But on the inside, it was far from that. I suffered from poor self-esteem, and I found myself getting in relationships and friendships that were not really serving me. And I didn't know why, but I was just really unhappy with my life. And it got to a point where I just woke up one morning and I'm like, Brianna, you can't do this anymore. Something has to change. And that's when it all started for me, because I asked myself the question, how can I change my life? And I started thinking about it. I mean, how could I change my life? So the first thing that I did, I went on Amazon and I purchased a bunch of spiritual books and books on personal development, and I was reading them like crazy. And then shortly after that, I went on a spiritual retreat with Don Miguel Ruiz, who is the author of The Four Agreements. And if you have not read that book, please go out and read it. It is amazing. I started looking at my life and asking myself, well, what's going to make me happy? So I started traveling. I went to India. I went to Southeast Asia. I have always loved dogs, so I started volunteering at the local animal shelter, and that's actually where I got my puppy Annabelle. And I also got, my master's in spiritual psychology. I started meditating. I took up yoga. I even started breath work classes, and I love those so much that I shortly after that learned how to teach breath work. I got to this place in my life where I was feeling so completely happy, loving my life, and confident. And it was an amazing feeling. But, somewhere along the way, I started thinking about all of the teen girls and all of the young women out there that were struggling like I was back in the day. And, those girls and young women that have lost hope and that are feeling lost in their lives. And I started wondering, what do they have to help them get through that? I mean, yes, there's, you got the doctors and therapists and medication, but there had to be more than just that. I mean, there was so many things that I did that they were all just right at my fingertips. But I didn't think it was fair that teen girls and young women don't have those same opportunities to transform their lives. And that's when I realized what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to become a coach for teen girls and young women and help them transform their lives. And that's exactly what I've done. And I'm actually in the process of putting together empowerment workshops that I want to bring into middle schools and high schools, because the message that I have here is just so important, and I know it can change so many lives. So when I was doing all of this work on myself, I realized that there were really only 4 shifts. Yes, you heard me. Only 4 shifts for transformation. And I am going to go through all of those shifts today. And you know what? Here's the thing with all of these shifts. Any girl or any young women can apply these shifts to their lives. And these shifts work. They are simple and they are effective. So I want to talk about one thing. The number one problem that my clients come to me with is, drum roll, what do you think it is? It is stress, anxiety, overwhelm, panic attacks, perfectionism, depression, and the pressure. You heard me, the pressure. They have so much pressure. But where is it all coming from? Well, let's take a quick look at these statistics. So there's this epidemic of anxiety and depression among girls. The suicide rate among teen girls reached a 40-year high in 2015. And roughly 3 out of 4 teen girls experience anxiety. And to top it off, 19.5% of teen girls experienced at least one major depressive episode. What is going on here? Let's take a look at this. Social media, phones. All of these girls, all of these young women, they're all addicted to their phones, and they're doing Snapchat and Instagram and whatever else they're doing on social media. It's become an addiction. And the bullying is out of control, because back in the day when I went to school or you went to school, the bullying happened at school, yes, but it usually stopped there. Now it is entirely different, because these girls cannot escape it. With social media, they're bombarded with it all of the time. It doesn't stop. And on top of all of that, there's the pressure to do so well in their classes and get good grades and be top of their class. And let's not forget, they have to get into the perfect college. And there's all this pressure with dating and relationships, and the pressure that guys are putting on them to have sex and to put out and all of this stuff. And the pressure to fit in with their friends. And that means whether it's smoking, drinking, doing drugs, there is so much pressure to fit in. And one other thing, they've got to look like this. They have to look like this beautiful model, right? So all of the pictures in the magazines and, the actresses and in TV shows, they have to look like this, because they think that this is what beauty really is. And it's enough to make any girl or young woman go mad, go crazy, right? They're overwhelmed. There's just so much going on. They feel like they don't know what to do with all of that. Okay? And here's the problem. Schools, they're not teaching teen girls, they're not teaching them how to overcome this, right? They teach math and science and English and history, and that's all great. But what about teaching them how to love themselves? What about teaching them what to do if they suffer from anxiety or depression? They're not learning it in schools. So where does that leave you? Basically, you have a couple of options, and there's not really that many. You can either A, take your daughter to a therapist, go to a doctor, and see if that works. Or you can B, take your daughter and, to the doctor and get her on some medication. Now, I'm not saying these things are wrong or bad, but what I am asking you is, what if that's not working? Or if you have done the therapy route or the medication route, what if it's not getting the results that you want for your daughter? What then? So I want to talk with you about Trisha. Trisha is one of my clients, and she had been struggling with depression for 2 years when I met her. In the summer of 2017, when her depression was at its worst, she barely got out of bed for a few straight months. She was crying so often. She couldn't even make it into work sometimes. And Trisha went to see a therapist, but the therapist only made her feel worse about herself than she already did to begin with. Here's what Trisha had to say. Since I started my sessions with Brianna, I physically felt myself pulling me out of this funk I was in. I can honestly say I don't have depression anymore. It's gone. I'm not a sad person. I'm living. I'm excited. I wake up every day like, what do I get to do today? I feel happy all of the time. Yeah, I'll have some bummer days, but the next day I'll wake up and it's like, okay, today's a new day. What are we going to do now? Coaching with Brianna has helped me miles past what a therapist could have ever done for me. Trisha. So what exactly did Trisha do? I mean, she went from sad and depressed and crying all the time and, a while back not even being able to get out of bed to loving her life. She did 4 shifts, the 4 shifts that I'm going to tell you about right now. So shift number 1, and this is the exact shift that Trisha did, control the mind. So your daughter can absolutely cure herself from anxiety, extreme overwhelm, or depression. It starts all with controlling her mind. And, for most girls and young women out there, they allow the mind to control them instead of the other way around, instead of them controlling their minds. So I want to talk about what is happening here, okay? And in order to do that, we have to talk about something called a habit. Yes, you heard me, a habit. And how do you create a habit? Okay, it's something that you do over and over again without even thinking about it, right? Like you're brushing your teeth. You don't even think about it, you just do it, okay? So can you unlearn a habit? Absolutely, you can. Why am I bringing up habits? Because this is a really important piece of all of this. If your daughter has depression, if she has anxiety, I'm going to say something that you probably haven't heard before. Your daughter doesn't actually have depression and she doesn't have anxiety. What she has learned habits of feeling anxious, of thinking anxious thoughts, of worrying. That's become a habit for her, right? But she doesn't have anxiety. Same thing with depression. Your daughter, if she's suffering from depression, all that means is she has habits of feeling sad and depressed. It's different from being a depressed person, okay? So if she learned this habit, and she learned it, I'm sure, over a number of maybe months, maybe years, if she can learn it, she can unlearn it. And that is exactly what Trisha did. Is it just about positive thinking and using the law of attraction? Well, maybe that's a little part of it, but there is so much more beyond all of that. So in order for your daughter to take control over her mind, number 1, she has to create new beliefs. Number 2, she has to create new emotional states. So the anxiety, the depression, the worrying, the self-doubt, that's old stuff. She needs to come into, new emotional states like happiness, joy, laughter, being excited. That's what's going to take her into a new paradigm, right? A new way of showing up for herself. And number 3, it's all about new ways of thinking. So shift number 2 is mind, body, soul connection. And this is when your daughter can bring the mind, body, and soul together. That's where the true healing lies. Breath work relieves stress and anxiety. And this is what is going to fill your daughter up with so much love and gratitude. Tapping, which is also known as Emotional Freedom Technique or EFT, tapping is going to help your daughter calm her nervous system, and it is going to rewire her brain to respond in healthy ways. Emotional release. I can't tell you how powerful this is, because this is what is going to allow your daughter to release whatever emotions that she has been holding onto. We've also got inner child healing. This is what allows your daughter to connect to her inner child and heal anything that is incomplete. Now, I just did an inner child healing with a client of mine just a couple of days ago, and I have to say it was extremely powerful, and it allowed her to access her inner child, her younger self, that was feeling so much emotional pain over something that had happened in her childhood. And she had never let that out. And, during this whole process, she was able to release those emotions. It was extremely powerful and extremely healing for her. Also, forgiveness. And this all ties in with self-forgiveness, because this allows for your daughter to no longer be a victim to any situation that has left her feeling disempowered. Okay, now shift number 3 is self-love. And I can't really talk about self-love without talking about confidence, because they kind of go hand in hand. And so let's take a look at confidence. Most people think that confidence is something you're born with. It's actually not. It's not a personality trait. It's actually a skill. It is a skill that can be practiced, and you can get really good at it. So what I'm basically saying is that anyone, I don't care how low your self-esteem is, I don't care how bad your confidence is, anyone can learn to have good, really good self-esteem and confidence. So let's go back to this question, the question that I asked earlier of myself when I first started working on myself. I asked, well, how can I change my life? And so going to this question, how do people change? And how do girls and young women learn to love themselves? So we have to look at this. Nothing in life is permanent. You can change anything. You can change your thinking patterns, you can change your mindset, and your behavior. Well, why are so many girls and young women staying stuck in their lives? Okay, here's the reason: because change is uncomfortable. It is unfamiliar, and it just feels downright unsafe. Okay, so letting go of self-doubt, worry, anxious thoughts, that's scary. Why? Because who would your daughter be without it? Who would your daughter be if she wasn't worrying all the time? Who would your daughter be if she wasn't beating herself up all the time? It's going to feel unfamiliar. Yes, that's true. And most likely, your daughter is going to want to revert back to the old ways of feeling, because that's what feels comfortable. So let's take a look at my client, Shelby. Shelby was going through a lot of changes in her life when I first started working with her. Now, since working together, she's made huge shifts in her life. She's feeling more confident with who she is and the choices that she's now making in her life. This is what Shelby had to say. In just 6 sessions, Brianna has helped me identify some key factors that were really holding me back in my life. As we move forward in our sessions, she provides such helpful tips and healing practices to keep me motivated and passionate. I am so thankful I found her. So the reason I am bringing up, Shelby and the work that I have done with her and continue to do with her, it's because what we are really doing is changing how she sees herself, changing the old ways that she has been showing up because they're no longer serving her. And that takes a little bit of time, but it also takes someone to support her and guide her through the whole entire journey. So let's take a look at the old way of doing things. Talk therapy, right? It's the old way. It's old, it's stale. It uses mainstream approaches basically used for 50 plus years. And usually there's a poor connection that's being built with the therapist. It's also relying on medication to help your daughter that maybe will have bad side effects. And there's no ongoing support. But let's take a look at the new way of doing things. With the new way, you have cutting-edge content, non-traditional practices with unique approaches like mindset growth, inner child healing, breath work, tapping, emotional release, self-love, and trauma healing. And actually working with someone your daughter can finally relate to, feel comfortable, and connect with. And there's also ongoing support in between the sessions, and this is so important. And also the sessions are in the comfort of your daughter's own home. Most likely it'll be in her bedroom because all of this is done online. What does your daughter need to transform? Let's go over everything. So number 1, your daughter needs to control her mind. She needs to understand and apply this whole mind, body, soul connection. So this is where I talked about all of the different healing modalities like breath work and tapping and forgiveness work and inner child healing. This is where it all happens. Self-love. Self-love is the foundational piece of the work that I do and the work that girls and young women need to do for themselves. And it's not just about understanding it. Girls and young women need to know how to apply it every day in their lives. And number 4, it's invest in coaching, which leads me to my shift number 4, which is coaching. Now, your daughter is going to need someone to support her and guide her to make this transformation. I guarantee you that she won't be able to make these shifts on her own. It just won't happen. So if you're sitting there right now and you're like, yeah, I hear you, Brianna. You're saying get her a coach, but I still don't get it. Why does my daughter need a coach? Well, let's look at this. There are so many coaches out there. So any sport team has a coach. Soccer, basketball, baseball, even like cheerleading, they all have coaches. Why? Because you're not just going to throw a bunch of girls out there and just say, hey, do your best and, have fun out there. No, you want if your daughter is in a sport team, if she's on a sport team, you want her to excel. You want her to get better and better. And she can't do that unless she has a coach. And let's look at if your daughter is struggling in one of her classes at school. When I was in 11th grade, I struggled in my math class. So my parents got me a tutor. So if your daughter is struggling, you most likely will get her a tutor, or maybe you will encourage her to stay after school and have her teacher help her or something like that. But she needs someone to help her so that she can perform better and do better in her class. You're not going to say, "Oh, just, do your best and we'll see how that goes." No, you're going to get someone to help her. Same thing goes for, if your daughter was taking up piano or learning any other musical instrument, you're going to get her a teacher. You're going to get her a piano teacher, right? Because you're going to want her to excel and do better. You're not just going to say like, "Oh, honey, go play on that piano and then, and we'll see how that goes." No, you're going to get help. You're going to get her a teacher. So the same thing goes for everything that I've talked about today in this presentation. Your daughter is going to need a coach. So you basically have a choice. You can either take all of the information that I have just given you and you can say, "You know what? I'm going to go to Barnes & Noble, I'm going to go on Amazon, and I'm going to get a bunch of books, and we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be amazing." But I'm going to be honest with you. If you think that you're going to be able to do, this sort of healing and this sort of transformational work with your daughter, you won't be able to. And another thing is, because you're the mom, your daughter is not going to want to hear it from you. It's just like you're too close to home. So if you try to go to that route, you're going to waste a lot of time. And in the meantime, your daughter is going to continue to struggle. Or you can do a different approach and you can say, "You know what? I'm sick of my daughter struggling. I want to do something different. I'm going to book a call with Brianna, and let me tell you what I'm offering you." I've set aside some time in the next few days to speak to you and your daughter to see how she can start transforming her life starting today. And here's the best part. Both calls are absolutely free, but they're not for everyone. So who is this call for? You have to be serious about getting your daughter help. Your daughter has to be willing to speak with me, and you have to be open to a new approach to help your daughter. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I believe that every girl in this world deserves to live an abundant life, to feel grateful for every day that she is alive, to love herself unconditionally, to know how enough she really is, to be happy, and to know that she is her own healer, and she is the only one that can transform her life. Don't allow your daughter to waste another minute of her precious life. It's time for your daughter to start living her best self, her highest self. Let's find out who that person is. And I want to just quickly talk about one of my client's mom. Her name is Jody, and I work with all three of her daughters. And this is what she had to say. "My family has been extremely fortunate to have Brianna as my daughter's coach for the past several months. I have 3 daughters. Their ages are 18, 20, and 21. She's been able to adapt and relate to each girl on the level they were able to meet her. Each of my daughters have told me separately how much they love her. I've noticed my daughters reach out in moments of stress, both big and small, and she's always there to respond to them within minutes. They all feel she is very much there for them. They feel safe and secure, as do I. I can genuinely feel her love and concern for each girl. She's an encourager and empowerment coach, but is honest and relatable to young women. Being able to be coached online has also been extremely helpful, as 2 of my daughters go to colleges in different states. I was concerned about finding someone near their school that I could trust. The girls love being able to do the sessions in the security of their own rooms. Jody Applebaum. So, thank you so much for watching this presentation. Please go to briannacolwin.com/apply and book your call to speak with me today. Now, spaces are very limited, so sign up now. So what's going to happen when you go to briannacolwin.com/apply, you'll be taken to my calendar page. And that's where you will pick a day and time that works for you. And it's actually, we're going to have a call on Zoom, which is really cool because you will be able to see me and I can see you on the call. It's going to be great. Then after that, we can schedule a time where I can connect with your daughter, okay? And then after you schedule that, you will go to a little short questionnaire. It's like 5 or 6 questions. You'll just answer them really quickly, and then you'll be all set. We'll have our call. It'll be about 45 minutes, and it's going to be the best 45 minutes that you have ever spent working to help your daughter. So again, please go to briannacolwin.com/apply, and I look forward to speaking to you very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.